The Boston Bruins are up 3-1 in their series against the Maple Leafs, and today we're getting a view from Toronto from Arun Srinivasan of Leafs Nation.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoked B. Today is Monday, April 29th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every day, free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Grab your monocle, throw on your top hat, and download the mobile hit twist on Classic Monopoly, free on the App Store or Google Play. The Bruins had a bit of an off day on Sunday as they traveled back from Toronto. Extra day between games 4 and 5, which is very frustrating because we just want to get things going here as the Bruins have a 3-1 series lead. We want to see the Bruins close things out and move on to the next round. We all remember what happened last season against the Florida Panthers. Nobody wants to see that repeated. And thankfully, the Toronto Maple Leafs appear to be in a bit of disarray here. And we're going to talk to Arun Srinivasan, a guy that I used to work with at theScore, who is covering this series for Leafs Nation, and get kind of a perspective on the whole series as well as what is going on with the Maple Leafs. Before we get into that, a quick reminder, you can find the podcast on social media at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts, dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. A lifelong Bruins fan, been covering this team for about 20 years for various outlets, worked for theScore for 5 years, as I mentioned, as a full-time hockey news editor. They've been hosting this podcast since 2019, hoping for a second round appearance for the Bruins this year, and we'll talk about how that could come about here as early as tomorrow night as we chat with Arun here from Leafs Nation. Let's get into it, shall we? Happy to be joined once again on the podcast by an old friend from theScore, Arun. We've chatted before in the past. How you doing? It's great to see you.
Hey, Ian, my guy. How are you, man? Thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Thanks for jumping on. I've been reading your stuff so far about this series, the previews, everything's been spot on. You've had some great perspectives and takes from Toronto perspective as well. So I wanted to have you on here as we get ready for Game 5. Before we look at some more Toronto-centric topics, just talk about why the Bruins are up in this series. What have the Bruins done right that has kind of flummoxed Toronto to this point in the series?
I mean, they've done so many things right. I think we'll just start with the simple one that either Jeremy Swayman or Linus Ullmark are just better than the other Samsonov. And so Swayman's been outstanding. I mean, even I think Linus Ullmark, I think even in Game 2 where Leafs won, he took too much flack for that loss.
Yeah.
So superior goaltending. I think the Bruins really stuck to their game plan really well. I mean, that sounds maybe overly simplistic, but Jim Montgomery, I mean, you listen to the way he speaks after games, his point of emphasis is so clear. When they lost Game 2, he just said, we're not winning enough ball battles. And surely enough, in Game 3, they responded really well. Mm-hmm. You know, from the start of the series, and I thought basically the way it played out when it scouted both teams were the Leafs were a slightly better like possession team and expected goals team. Mm-hmm. But what is striking about Boston is their counterattack principles. Like the Bruins are winning because they have such a superior counterattack. They capitalize on mistakes. So even I don't know what the possession splits are right now through Game 4, but at least through 3 games, the Leafs had far superior possession, but Boston was just wait for their mistake and then go. The other thing is, I mean, we can't get around is, the power play versus the penalty kill. I mean, the Leafs penalty kill has been atrocious. And I think also, too, in Leafs land, all of this is because the Leafs are making mistakes. I mean, there's intentionality in the Bruins power play. They move the puck quite simply. You know, David Pastrnak enters so fluidly that it doesn't really give the Leafs really time to get set, particularly with their defensemen. I mean, Joel Edmondson's never set. but they're running around out there. I think also too, I wrote about this at the start of the series. This is true of Austin Matthews as well, but David Pastrnak, he has what in basketball they call the gravity effect, right? The threat of his shot is so omnipresent that it opens up so many lanes for his other teammates, and that's working really well on the power play. It's why Jake DeBrusk is scored. It's why that even while Mitch Marner has been primarily defended David Pastrnak, he's still making impactful plays outside the score sheet. And again, you think, after game 4, game 3 and 4, these are the Brad Marchand games, pass has been kept in check. And what does that look like? A goal and an assist? So simply from a conceptual level, I think the Leafs are losing on the counterattack. Their pound to kill has been god awful. The Bruins are moving with intentionality. And then their Bruins bottom 6, they're not really winning again the possession, but they're getting the pucks to the dirty areas, and that's what they have to do, right? I call it bully ball. Much like, they really are playing sort of like, Trent Frederick and these guys are pushing the Leafs around. They're winning puck battles. So the Bruins are doing all the simple things well. I think they know what their team identity is. They know they're not the Florida Panthers or the Edmonton Oilers. They're not going to be a 58% Corsi team, but they have the best counterattack in the league because every single Bruins player tracks back. Like even Pat Maroon tracks back.
Yeah.
So just like, and then again, I think it's sort of, I never really had a good sense of how to judge coaching. I think the more and more hockey you watch, the more granular you get into details you realize coaching. It's like Jim Montgomery is running circles around Sheldon Keefe right now too.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the talking points.
I mean, it's crazy because down the stretch, Boston's power play was a big storyline. It was pretty bad. The penalty kill wasn't rolling as good as it had been, and that's been a huge kind of reversal here in this series, almost not inexplicably because they have the personnel to succeed on the power play. But yeah, Jake DeBrusk, he had 1 point, I think, in his last 11 regular season games. He's been huge on the power play, obviously. Brad Marchand's come alive as well. Special teams has been pretty big, and you look at game 5, don't want Toronto's power play to get going. Easy answer to that is, I think, just stay out of the box. Coming up here, we're going to talk about the Leafs drama, what's going on with on the bench with some of their key players, and we're going to touch on that here as the podcast continues. NFL draft is behind us. All focus right now is on the NBA and the NHL playoffs. Baseball is in full swing as well. FanDuel is the place to be to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. So you can bet on everything from who's going to record the most points, over-unders, home runs, slam dunks, slap shots, and more, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win. You get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed, win or lose, with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. I went to a baseball game a couple weeks ago and used the Gametime app, and it was a seamless experience. I looked up the specific date. I was able to see the view from my seat before I arrived at the stadium and got a fantastic deal on great seats all through Gametime, which is so easy to use. All you have to do is download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms do apply, but again, all you have to do is create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. They also have a lowest price guarantee, which means if you find the same seats or seats in the same section and row for less elsewhere, they will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is also covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. That's Gametime, last minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. All right, I am back with Arun. We are talking about Bruins, Maple Leafs, first round series that has gone Boston's way so far. Obviously, Bruins fans recall last year where they were up 3-1 against the Florida Panthers. So it's not over until it's over. I'd argue these Maple Leafs aren't quite the Panthers, so feel a bit more comfortable. But a lot of it is also some turmoil on the Leafs bench. Everybody saw the display from Mitch Marner, William Nylander, Austin Matthews. Matthews wasn't able to return for the third period due to an illness that's bothering him. Arun, talk about kind of the Leafs drama and whether or not that's going to carry over into Game 5, or if people are making too much of it. What's your take on all that? All those extracurriculars on the bench?
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of a layered question and response. I think, what did I make of it? I mean, it was sort of multi-pronged. I mean, I think a lot of people were like, well, at least Austin Matthews and William Nylander are showing some sort of emotional response. But
Yep.
I don't think we'll see another like really emotional outburst in Game 5. I mean, I don't think it's really gonna have any carryover effect. You can tell in the post game too, like the way the guys were talking about it, like, oh, we all love each other. Oh, it's a family, boys will be boys. Yeah. Sure, I guess. I mean, personally, I don't need to see any sort of performative emotionality. Like, these guys are pros.
Yeah.
I think these sort of things, like, we like to see these things as fans. It's exciting to talk about the moment, to see Willie saying it's not junior, to paraphrase. But I can't see that being like a positive. Like, if I see, Mitch Marner and Willie Nylander having a pretty heated verbal spat in Game 5, I don't see it as a net positive or any sign of their competitiveness. Like, it's funny you mentioned this, Ian. Like, I wrote this thing prior to Game 4 about, you can criticize Mitch Marner, but be specific about what you're talking about. Like, this idea that it's effort level thing, I thought was nonsense. Like, I generally think that, when we talk about effort level, the pros, they're all putting in good effort. It's really just a matter of hockey. And then we got Game 4, and it seemed to be the rare exception where, that sort of columnist brain proved to be right, where it's just like they didn't. Like, it was the most pathetic showing I've seen of the year era. What do I make of all the drama? I mean, I sense it as guys getting fed up with losing for sure, but I can't see this as a positive. Like, I'm sure there has been some sort of spin on it, like, well, they finally like woke up, or they finally, to that effect. I think they've always cared. It's just a matter of, they're not making smart plays. I'll say this too, and I said this on the Fan 590 a few days ago. Like, Mitch Marner takes criticism really hard.
Yeah.
Someone else wrote this. I can't take credit for this idea necessarily, but he's not. Yeah, he's like not as secure as people like think, or as he makes himself out to be. Like, my year and a half being around the team, I'll say this, that a lot of the sort of narratives about the Maple Leafs are overblown. Like, they try to say, oh, John Tavares isn't this great leader, or he's not. Like, John's like pretty like well spoken and has a great command of the group. Like, that. Or like, oh, they don't care because they're so nonchalant. Like, that's also like nonsense too. Like, they're star athletes living in a cool city. Like, that would be the same in New York. That would be the same anywhere else.
Yeah.
But the thing with Marner is, like, he definitely takes the criticism like hard. He, Matthews and Nylander are like pretty like jovial guys. If anything, they're just like cool guys, and they're like in their 20s, and like Pasternak, they're known for their fashion, and that. Tavares is like a family guy. He's this has been his destiny since he was like 13. Like he's quite happy, and he's settled, and he's a family man, and he's involved in the community. And then you got Mitch, who like, again, I'm not making this about like Mitch Marner versus the media, but he's like the only one of the core four who really gives the media like a hard time. Or when, just an example, like when Ilya Samsonov was nominated for the Masterton a few weeks ago, Mitch Marner came out and was like, you guys say nasty things about players like routinely when guys aren't having the best time. So he said this, like, he couched this in the Samsonov Masterton nomination, but I thought it was kind of revelatory about the way he sort of thinks about things. And then as for Austin Matthews, like I guess I owe like the Maple Leafs a retraction. Like I wrote this about William Nylander at the start of the series. I'm like, why don't you just publicly disclose what's going to happen?
Right.
Jim Montgomery's not going to change his lineup
Yeah.
because Nylander's out. If anything, Trent Frederick's relieved that he doesn't have to play against a player of that caliber.
Yeah.
In ostensibly bottom 6 minutes. But yeah, as for Austin Matthews, like, what can you do? I mean, he's got a migraine. I mean, I don't know what more to be said about it. It's bad timing when your 69 goal scorer goes down with him, also with this illness. Yeah, like I don't know. Like I don't want to speculate on that, and I haven't been around the team, so I don't really have sort of a look at what Matthews is like. But I mean, yeah, I don't want to speculate on what it is. I do the service to the player, but with Nylander having a migraine and Matthews with this unspecified illness, just bad timing. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Sheldon Keefe, said on Sunday that it's something that the longer he's out there, it gets harder for him to be able to maintain stamina. Yeah, super concerning for him. The other thing about Sheldon Keefe I want to touch on, you mentioned what happened on the bench. Keefe came out and said, he wasn't dissatisfied with their effort in Game 4. He thought the effort was there. You think that's just it clearly wasn't. We all saw that in the first 2 periods at least. You look at like the block shots total, I think it was 27-6 or something like that. Not that that's the be all and end all, but it's kind of indicative of going the extra mile. What were your thoughts on that specific comment that the effort he thought was up to par or it needed to be?
Just totally ridiculous. I mean, honestly, like I'll say this about Keefe, like, in the year and a half I had, like, being in person, having access to the team, like he is a player's coach. Like he adequately defends players.
Right.
There's got to be a certain, and it's not to say that he hasn't criticized players. Like he specifically called out like John Tavares during the rough scoring stretch in the regular season. Like he will say things sort of about the penalty kill writ large. I think he's given like Pontus Holmberg like a hard time every now and then. But by and large, he generally is like a player's coach. But like, this is ridiculous, Sheldon. Ian, it's funny that you mentioned the stats. Like, I like stats. I really like advanced stats. I try to my head's buried in natural stat trick like every day. But like I wrote after Game 4, it's like you don't need to look at the stat sheet to quantify this. Like, you don't need to look at expected goals to see what was wrong with the Leafs. Like. It was like a sort of a lifeless performance, and for him to say that he has no issue with the effort, like what's the upside of saying that?
Yeah,
is it merely to just defend your players who are going to be criticized regardless of what you say in the post game, based on sort of the circumstances of it being a Game 4, based on it being the accumulation of 8 years with this core.
Yeah.
And it really going nowhere. I mean, with it being that, I would say these are 2 pretty evenly matched teams despite the series, at least from the outset of it. But yeah, I don't understand why he said that. He seems exasperated. I mean, I tweeted this during Game 4, but he tried 104 different lines.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I think what the Bruins have done well, at least when I was watching them the first half of the year, is like it seemed like every single night they would have a slightly different forward line due to injuries, due to Matt Poitras like just coming out of the gate really strong and up. Like it seemed like every single night Montgomery would be like slightly tweaking his forwards. Justin Brazeau came in around like February-ish.
Yeah.
So it's just like it seems like the Bruins can like alter the lines and they'll be fine. And Sheldon has just been like trying to find the right combination, and what he stumbled upon is that Austin Matthews can drive any line in the league. Okay, great.
Yeah,
and that's it. Like he hasn't found anything there. So yeah, I think that was also the frustrating component too. It's like, look, like I'm not going to pretend to be an NHL coach. I think they know more about us for sure. Like I'm not going to come out here on your podcast or any public platform to say that I know more about hockey than Sheldon Keefe or know more about coaching tactics.
Yeah.
But I find it sort of striking that he has been so open about putting the lines in a blender, and then with the game in the most important game of the era, he's like, let's run Bertuzzi, Matthews, Domi out there and see what happens, and good luck, guys. Like it just, there haven't been any really strong adjustments, and I think even the subtle adjustment that Jim Montgomery made by putting Marchand, Cole, Kiki together.
Yeah,
sure, right. Even though Marchand, by all accounts, was playing really well, he's like, yeah, let's try it. I saw something there, and surely enough, it works. It's just like, it's just, it's been frustrating to watch from a Leafs fan's point.
Yeah, and I tweeted after the game too, like, not to pile on, but Ryan Reeves out there with, you're down 2 goals and there's like 3 minutes left in the game. That's just, I don't understand how that's even possible. We're gonna talk more about looking ahead to Game 5, maybe some different lineup options for the Leafs here as the podcast continues. It is Monopoly Go time, friends. Grab your monocles, throw on your top hats, and download the classic Monopoly game with a fresh twist, Monopoly Go. You can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. And the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you can unlock. And there's so much to get. You can get unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constant changing challenges. Ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine even. There's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. Always something fun to discover at Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now free on Google Play or the App Store. All right, let's get back into it here with Arun talking about Leafs, Bruins, looking ahead to Game 5. We saw Joseph Woll start the third period for the Leafs in Game 4. Let's start there. Do you think there'll be a change in net for the Leafs as the starter for Game 5?
I honestly don't know. I mean, we're just for your listening audience. I mean, because of the time we're recording, we'll know just after we finish recording.
True. Yeah.
I honestly don't know. Like, I can't get a sense of that really. I would tend to think that logically it would make sense just run it back with Samsonov. Like, why not? He should be your 1A starter. He has had, man, in all our years of watching hockey, like, I don't think I've quite seen like a one goalie's like year to year.
Yeah.
Not been quite like Ilya Samsonov, where he starts the year, he goes to arbitration, he gets like a decent deal. He's not satisfied with it, and apparently him and Brad Trivlin didn't speak the whole summer afterwards.
Oh, really?
He went and trained in Florida too. I think with some of the, I don't know if it was with Bobrovsky or not, but he went to Florida to train. He came back, whatever. He put it behind him, and he's actually quite like a fun guy to talk to. He's like in pretty good spirits, and then he starts the year dreadfully.
Yeah.
To the point where it was just like, he's missing shots that are like, not even like ECHL level, like it was horrific. And then he clears waivers, he comes back, and then he ends up being one of the best goalies of the 2024 calendar year.
Yeah.
Only to have to end the regular season with a few subpar starts. So he's been all over the place. With that said, like, he is your 1A starter, I think.
Yep.
Based on the way he played from January till the end of March, he is your starter. Like, it's not a knock on Joe Woll. Like, Joe Woll's also a pretty like unflappable guy mentally. He's a very like super smart kid.
Yeah.
I had the chance to interview Joe Woll earlier this year, and couldn't be like a nicer kid, really thoughtful. Clearly could have like been like had a professional career outside of hockey if he didn't choose to be like, if he wasn't a hockey player, Joe Woll would be successful. Probably pretty much in any avenue of life. Like, he's super smart, and he's got that sort of exact mentality that you want from a goalie, like in a high stakes situation. But that being said, like I just don't see what the upside is in going to Joe Wall. Like it's not.
Right.
I don't think it's been on Elias Samson enough. You know, some people have pointed to him like he flops down a little bit too early. And they were using the Brad Marchand goal in Game 4 as an example. I'm like, well, if 4 guys collapse on,
there wasn't much you could do on
yeah,
that.
if 3 guys collapse on Charlie McAvoy and Marchand has a clean shooting lane, I don't think it's on the goalie. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, if I were to read into it, maybe they go Joe Wall, but like Keefe sort of explained after Game 4 that he's pulling Samson not because of his performance, but just to sort of try to kickstart the team. Maybe they go to Wall for that reason, but it's hard to get a read of. Outside of that, like I don't know what other changes the Leafs really have, particularly because Keefe hasn't been inclined to show any like
Right.
life. But like put the lines in the blender, like get Nylander into that top 6. The spread offense concept, I think it's time to abandon it. I think particularly because you have to play your stars more. It's not like a usual game. Like David Kampf, I don't want to see you on the ice. Like, Ryan Reeves, we don't want to see you. Like it just is what it is. Like I think because Max Domi has played his best hockey with Austin Matthews, there's sort of this idea that the two are inseparable. Yeah. And it's true. Max Domi has like excelled as a playmaker. Since the trade deadline, he's been like one of the NHL's best playmakers.
Yeah.
Then there's also like, well, is it because Max is like elevated his game, or is it because he's staple to Austin Matthews? Like,
right.
So he really, and Max Domi has to play the way. We've learned out this year that if he plays center, the Leafs are getting scored on.
Right.
That's simply the case.
Yeah.
So you have that element to play. I don't know. I would like them to see them like load the line with one of Matthews and Nylander together at some point. Maybe you get Bertuzzi, Matthews, Nylander. They've played together a little bit. Maybe you put even Bertuzzi, Tavares, Nylander, and then get Matthews and Marner reunited together with Max Domi on the wing.
Yeah,
that might be your best offensive sort of top 6 combination. There are probably some defensive things to address. I think at this point, there hasn't been the inventiveness. There hasn't been a willingness to try things. Matthew Nyes has been glued to that line with Tavares and Marner. And frankly, I don't think he's been the problem, Nyes. I mean, he
had that one nice play there, Marner denies.
Exactly. But I just think, there has to be just some sort of willingness to change the lines, especially because, again, in the regular season, he would do it with reckless abandon, and now with everything on the line, he won't. So we'll see. I don't know what the Bruins are going to change. I don't think they need to change anything.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't think they're going to change anything, really.
Yeah.
Maybe a net just to keep Ullmark active, but I don't know.
From your perspective, I'm so fascinated by this. It's like, this idea of keeping the goalie secret or alternating. Like the alternating I get.
Yeah.
But from the Bruins perspective, it's just say who the goalie is.
Yeah.
It's not like Linus Ullmark is like, you know what I mean? Like it's such a luxury for the Bruins to have that your backup goalie is last year's Vezina Trophy winner. Yeah. Like I don't understand why the Bruins play coy with it. Just say your starters. It's still going to be a tough out for the Leafs.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what they're going to do, whether they just let Swayman try to close it out or go back to Ullmark. I mean, he didn't win his game, but not many people are going to stop that Matthews breakaway that was the game winner. Just looking at the underlying numbers, though, like this series, you look on paper and think that based on the shot attempt differentials, high danger differentials, Toronto would have the upper hand. Boston, though, they rank first in save percentage in all situations, third in shooting percentage. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's time for those to kind of level off? Or do you think it's the Bruins have just got the Leafs number here in this series?
The on-ice save percentage is not going to level off. I mean, the shooting percentage, I've been waiting for the Bruins PDO bubble to collapse all year, and it hasn't. Much like the Canucks, right? They're both up 3-1. So the PDO bubble apparently. Yeah,
they've both been like top 3 all season long, pretty much.
Yeah, you're expecting the balloon to sort of collapse, but it hasn't. No, just from the shooting stats, I'm more inclined to think the Bruins defense numbers to stay strong and that their shooting collapses. But I don't think the Bruins are winning because of shooting luck. Like they aren't.
Yeah.
I think you could use that as a justifiable reason why the Leafs aren't losing, but the Leafs aren't creating any offense either. It'd be one thing if the Bruins are winning these games like 6-4 or like 7-5. We haven't had any of those type of games before. Like the two teams are playing to their style, and the Leafs are not generating any offense.
Yeah.
The Bruins are showing who they are. Like they are a team that relies on elite goaltending. They are very sound. They have strong forechecking principles. Even on Marchand's goal, which was in game, they're all coming through in game 3, where he scored from the short area. Like you can see how Danton Heinen comes in as F2 with this sort of diagonal line, wins the puck, and then gets it out to Marchand for the goal. It's just these are just they play with like concepts in mind where, you watch 32 teams, you watch hockey every night. A lot of teams are running the same stuff.
Yeah.
Or just like improvising from shift to shift. But it's true. Like you watch the Bruins long enough, it's like you can see recognizable patterns of what they do. They stick to it and it works. So yeah, I don't know. I think the Leafs are done. I think the core 4 are done.
Yeah. That's gonna be a fascinating off season if this sticks for sure.
Yeah, like I would say that I was one of sort of the Leafs like writers, and I guess you're a fan too, fine, why not? Who was reticent to trade one of Mitch Marner, William Nylander. The idea being that they're not going to trade John Tavares. Like they've signed him to free agency with a pact that he was coming here for a lifetime, and he's established John Tavares' mom will go beat up the front office if we need Barb Tavares, we'll throw some hands. But yeah, I would say, look, the Leafs have to enter this offseason, provided they don't stage a miraculous comeback, that everyone except from Austin Matthews is on the table. Yeah. Austin Matthews is the only player on the team who's untouchable now. And that's not an easy thing to say. Believe me, I try to be, especially now that I have covered this team and talked to players, I don't say it flippantly. Like you look, it changes the way you cover hockey because you have to look at them. They're human beings, their lives. It's not fun to be critical of players. I don't enjoy it, but how could you not be how can you reasonably analyze the series without having some sort of drastic outcomes attached to it, right? So it's a referendum of a game 5 for the league. Bruins is just another game. It's a fun opportunity to eliminate the 6th team on home ice. For Toronto, this is an 8-year referendum of a game. So I don't think the Leafs, again, not to get into pop psychology too much, Ian. I try to keep it on what we're seeing on the ice, but how could that not work in the Bruins' favor? How could they're so calm.
Let's hope. Yeah, a lot of Bruins fans are still dealing with last year. But hopefully, it's a different story.
Look at it this way, right? It's like we both like basketball, right? The 2016 Warriors bounced back and won a title.
Yeah.
So I know in hockey it's not the same. You can't really. There's no sort of NBA equivalent to what a goalie can do to a series, but but you know what I mean? It's like they bounce back, and you're playing a team that psychologically, you think the sting of losing in the first round after winning 65 games, or it's like the Leafs have one first-round victory in 8 years. They haven't shown that. They haven't shown the emotional resolve that they can handle it. And I imagine that TD Garden is going to be absolutely rocking.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I don't know. One thing I will say, actually, because I want to get this out of my system, Hampus Lindholm, man, my God, that guy.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
He's so good, dude. I don't think casual fans understand how good he is.
Yeah.
He just he rarely makes a mistake. I think it's his only mistake in the series is on the Matthews breakaway goal where he just didn't communicate to Charlie McAvoy that the puck is in the air. Really,
that's
it. That's his only mistake in the series. This guy is amazing, dude.
There was a moment in game 4 where there was a offensive zone face-off for the Bruins. Mason Lohrei was out there. The Leafs won the face-off. Lohrei, Lindholm switched immediately, and then Lindholm just came down, broke up the play, took it the other way. That was he had been very criticized early on in the season for not kind of replicating how he started last year.
Yeah.
But he's really come around, and he's been unbelievable for the.
Yeah, I wanted to get your vantage point just because of precisely that, right? Like I would see like Lindholm, you do a cursory search and you see even just get anything with criticism. I'd be like, do you guys know how lucky you are to have him? Like,
I know.
There's
Yeah,
31 other teams that would kill to have him back.
I know.
So yeah,
and they're pretty good contracts still for a couple of years too.
That's the other thing too, man. It's like like, talking about contracts, as you know, is like the least favorite part for me talking about the game. I don't like the way hockey discussion is framed under capology.
Yes.
But with that said, it's kind of almost impossible to ignore what some of the Bruins top guys are making in comparison to the Leafs. Like, I don't want to get into the anti-labor aspects of player contracts. They've all deserved the money.
Yeah, for sure.
But like you're seeing that what Brad Marchand's making, what, like 6.1?
Yeah, that's been one of the best contracts in the NHL for
it's not the prism that I like talking about hockey through, but it's impossible to ignore.
For sure.
All
right, Arun. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking some time to chat today and give some perspective from Toronto. Tell people where they can find your
so you can find my work at the Leafs Nation. I'm doing some writing there. I'm doing some editing there for the time being. You can find my Twitter handle at Arun Things. My first name's Arun. I think there it is. It's got a nice little
there it is.
There. Perfect. You can find me on Twitter there. My work's at the Leafs Nation. I'm trying to think where else. I don't have any other things actively on the go right now, but at least I literally say NHL stuff. So
perfect.
That's where you can find my work. Again, I know this is a Bruins podcast. Selfishly, need the Leafs to win some more games, so you can see more of my work going forward this summer. Thank you so much for having me, man. If anything, it gives me it's always lovely talking hockey with you.
Yeah, for sure.
This is like a form of like group therapy from
And we'll be back tomorrow to preview Game 5, bring you all the latest in terms of potential lineup stuff. And please do subscribe if you haven't already, your favorite podcast app, YouTube. And we'll talk to you again here tomorrow, friends. Take care.